On this new series that I'm loving so far, on this Becoming series, and y'all, we are getting down to the most gritty for Becoming series. This is I'm your host, Daniellejmartin of Behind the Spotlight Podcast. Now, over the next couple of weeks, I'm inviting you to tune into a couple of conversations that I'll be having with some of my close friends who are also true believers and community influencers.
I will ask him for something, he will give it to me, but it's not how I thought it would look.
Just because you think that you deserve something does not mean that you deserve it in that season.
The skills that you have that nobody else has, your perspective, the lens that you have, those things are your best thing.
People always say, like, when you know better, you do better. But why is it that when you know better, you still don't do better? Are you really becoming wiser? Now, on this new series called Becoming, we're going to be diving into a variety of topics that's going to empower you and inspire you to become the better version of yourself.
That's what it is. Because you're stepping into the unknown. You're stepping into unfamiliar territory. So when you're growing and when you're evolving and when you're changing, you're going to be faced with things that you've never been faced with.
What God is calling you to do doesn't make sense. It makes miracles.
That you are the head and not the tail, above and not beneath.
Now, if you find that this conversation is serving you, then I encourage you to share it with someone else. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Now, open up your minds and be ready to be transformed. Hey guys, it's Daniellejmartin back here on Behind the Spotlight Podcast with the final episode. Yes, it's the countdown. The 10-part series of Becoming is finally ending, but with someone special, okay? So let me introduce you to the CEO and founder of Omni Circle Group, Michael Odupitan. How are you?
What's going on? I'm good. How you feeling?
My favorite person, by the way.
Your favorite person? That's what you say? All right.
There's something special. We got to tell the people what makes you so special.
What makes me special? Since you said I'm the special one, what makes me special?
Well, for those who don't know, but Michael is the founder of Omni Circle Group, the organization that I've been raving about, a part of, that I do the boot camp in. So we do a lot of things, really, but he's also my partner, and so someone I confide in, and really the main person that kind of got me going on this path of becoming the better version of myself. So I thank you for that. And so this episode is called Authentic You, right? And so we've talked about a variety of things. We've talked about old self versus new self. We've talked about overcoming your own thoughts. We've also talked about becoming wiser, a lot of different things of the pathway of becoming. And so I always like to tell people that, on this journey, becoming, you're never just coming to the stopping point of becoming this, right? It's an oncoming journey. It's an ongoing journey. And so the reason why he's the final person of this episode is because there's also philosophy that he created, a part of Omni Circle. But before we go into that, right, kind of getting ahead of myself.
Getting deep early.
Super excited, y'all. This man is super intelligent and honestly just inspires me to be greater. So
No, I appreciate that, Danielle. I really do.
But, okay, tell the people about you, where you're from. Let's kind of keep it short, but.
She always said I talk too much. So, yeah, I'll keep it short. So, Michael Odupitan, obviously, from West Palm Beach, Florida. And I need to say a little proper, Florida. West Palm Beach, Florida, by way Lake Worth, Florida. Came here to Topeka, Kansas in 2002. Transitioned here. Played football and basketball here at Washburn and spent quite a few years here in Topeka, just learning the city, man, and then being here and coming back and wanting to be a part of creating something that will give equitable opportunities for all people. So, yeah, I'm back, and, I guess we've just caught along the journey, and now we're here.
Yeah, it's been a very authentic journey, I like to say. And, I like to be very transparent and real about my life. And so the question that we always get is how did you guys meet? How did you guys come about, right? And then on this journey, how we are building our platform to become who we are today. Mm-hmm. And so just to keep it short, I ran into Michael really just by the pathway of God, really, because I was searching for myself. I was trying to get involved in the community. I said, hey, I want to start a boot camp. I want to get involved, and ran into him, and he was telling me about some other volunteer opportunities. And then he also said, hey, I'm actually looking for someone to start a boot camp. And I was like, I want to do it, right? And so then our pathways just really aligned. And then from there, we just have been growing and creating, and it's just been beautiful.
Yeah.
So I do want people to know about Omni Circle, because that's always the question. What do you guys do? What do we do?
We do everything. we're omnipresent is what people
Yeah.
say. And that's just the goal. We want to be everywhere and anywhere we can. So I say typically just a breakdown of Omni. Like you said, our mission is to unite and strengthen communities by adding value to personal and professional development of people that we work with. We want people to be able to compete at any level, to be able to raise the bar. We talk about diversity and creating access to equitable opportunities. That's what we're really about. So we do that in 3 phases that we say we try to take people from survival to creation. And in that survival, we say we try to connect with people, try to meet those basic needs of individuals that need those basic needs met. And then in our second phase is our collaboration phase, where we meet personal needs. That's the psychological development, right? And that's a big part of where we came together at. And then now in our third phase, we're in the creation. And this is part of your creation, right?
It is.
Building this podcast. And that's what we want people to be. And I think that leads into what we're talking about today, and probably why I'm sitting here at the last, because it's about becoming your best self. But becoming your best self basically means living in your authentic self when you get there. So,
Definitely.
So that's pretty much where we're at. We're trying to get more people to live in their authentic self.
Yeah. And so Michael has a journey of a lot of things. I mean, it's interesting, and I want you to even dive deeper, because becoming the authentic version of yourself, it's like, what does that even look like, right? For some people, they're still trying to figure it out. For me, and we can talk about it now, but I was on this pathway of searching for broadcasts. I was going after broadcasts. I wanted to be this top anchor and things like that. And then once you get around people that challenge you to think differently, it's like, oh, I actually want to do something else, right? We go to school and you study something, and it's always that question of, do I really want to do this once you get there? You're like, okay, this is something I've always studied for. I'm already here. But then once you get into that career, you're like, okay, do I really like this? And so I think around the time that we met, I was being challenged mentally. And I know I've always wanted to give a voice to the voiceless. And I always wanted to give a platform for people to tell their stories, because I always felt like people can learn from other people. People can learn from your story today. People can learn from all the other guests that we had on this show, because there's something unique about them. And then realizing hey, you're not alone. I actually went through that too. Or listening to this person, I can connect with them in that way, right? So Michael Odupitan didn't just arrive as a CEO, but your journey to get here, right? Not working for anyone else, doing this organization full time took a journey. So let's actually go back even deeper of what got you here.
How far back you want me?
Okay. I guess let's start with your mom.
Okay. Well, so I guess that's a part of where the passion became. Again, athlete, 2-star athlete coming out of high school, then going on to college and playing football. But in that journey, like a lot of kids coming from where I came from, it was about making it to the NFL. It was about making it to the pros in some capacity. And coming from where I come from, very humble beginnings, I like to tell people, we didn't have much growing up. So my goal in life was to reach it to my max potential as far as making it to the NFL or NBA, so I can take care of my mother. And I got here to Washburn, did not achieve the goal of that. And it was kind of like, what was next? And then I spent a lot of years here trying to figure out just life. Nobody really gave me direction. I was just living in it, trying to figure out what was my next steps. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, I reached capacity of some things that I was doing here in Topeka. I ended up getting a nice size house. Had 2 cars, and to me that was more than my family had growing up.
Yeah.
But I felt like there was more. I didn't have that fulfillment in life, so I ended up moving to Kansas City, and 6 months after being there, I lost my mom, and that was gut wrenching. It was kind of like, one of the hardest things that I ever dealt with in my life. And I think that also was a learning lesson in itself. So I went into a little bit of depression. And the thing that was along the journey where my life changed, when I went home and I was at the funeral. And if anybody knows my mom, and people probably watching this podcast, my mom was the life of the party. I cannot deny that. Everybody loved being around my mom. But me growing up underneath her wing and being her youngest child, I just saw so much more. You know, I saw her being a helper in the community. I saw her, feeding countless amount of people. I watched her, serving those in nursing homes. Like, she was a giver. So because nobody really mentioned that, it hurt my heart. And I felt like I wanted to do something about that. After getting back from the funeral, coming back here, going through that depression, and then hearing tapes like Les Brown saying, at a point when I think it was one of his tapes he talked about imagining being at a funeral, walking up to the casket, and when you get to that casket, you look inside of it and it's you. What are people going to say about you and your legacy? And that kind of just hit me. Yeah. So from that point on, I just decided to start living my life like by this quote that I read: you live your life the way you want someone to tell your story. And me being the youngest of my mom's 4 children, I get to carry on her legacy. So now, with all the stuff that was happening in the world, the Eric Gardners and the Sandra Blands, I felt like I wanted to make some change and be a part of the change. And now at some point, living a living legacy of my mother and this last name, this Odupitan last name, and making something happen in the world. So that's drew me back here to Topeka. And the journey continues. I mean, it's a bunch of things that we can get into, but yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that and opening up about that story, because many people don't know that the root of the organization stems from your mom and giving back to people, and also understanding that, the minority group of people, it's harder for us to receive certain things as we grow, as we're trying to create our own. And it's like being able to have a resource hub and facility that's like, hey, here it is. Here's the cheat code, basically. Like,
yeah, it's a lot of things that we just don't know. And we always talk about part of this organization. We talk about this allegory of the cave. And when we talk about the allegory of the cave, if anybody's familiar, but I'll give a brief synopsis of what that means, is you have 4 people in the cave, and all they know is the darkness of the cave. They've never seen the light of day. And then you have people, one of those people get out of the cave and he sees the light for the first time. Well, typically when you see the light for the first time, you go blind. I was that kid getting out of the cave. A lot of us come from neighborhoods that are really rough, but we really don't know what life looks like outside of those environments.
Right.
And it wasn't until I got to Topeka, Kansas, and was able to live life a little different, see the world a little different. But it was a transition. It was a culture shock.
Yeah.
I was in a place where it was 5% black people.
Yeah. Going
to Washburn University. And when I first got to Topeka, I didn't even know black people was here in Topeka. So it was a very different world. But that opened my eyes to things that I've never thought that I would be able to achieve. And then having resources to people that I just never thought I would have resources to. So living in this world now, I feel like I know I wasn't afforded the opportunity for the things that I have now, the people that I know now. And then now I get to be someone that opens that door for somebody else and kind of say, hey, here's a path. You can take this path. You don't have to cut down the weeds by yourself. There's someone that's already done it. And hopefully it gets people to their self-actualization, or it gets them to their success that they want in their lives, so we can make it a little easier for helping people get there. So we need more models, and I'm hoping that we can be a model for somebody. You can be a model for a little girl, and I can be a model for a little boy. Who knows?
Now, even coming to your authentic self requires you, it takes mindset. It takes a change in mindset. It takes sacrifice. And so one of the things that Michael has always encouraged or impacted and instilled in me was giving me a different perspective of life, right? And I think in order to have a different perspective and changing your mindset, you have to let go of certain things, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, you didn't become this person today. And so share with the viewers, what did you have to let go in order to become who you are today?
What did I have to let go? A lot. I had to let go of this false reality. That may not make sense, but it was a false reality that I felt like I was fed. And, you know, you have traditions, your family traditions, cultural traditions. And again, not saying that we have to get rid of our cultural traditions, but we have to understand them to get us to different places in our lives. So some traditions that I would say, some things that I had to let go of, like, you know, people say, and I like to say this blatantly because we're building this community within Omni Circle, is people say, keep your circle small.
Yeah.
You know, don't let nobody else in. Well, if you're not letting people in, if you're not expanding your network to people that can provide you resources, you're not growing. That's a cultural thing sometimes I feel like we have to let go of. And there's plenty of them, of things that people say. They say, well, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that, or I don't want people around me, or I don't. And those things keep us stagnant. They keep us in one place. They prevent us from growing. So I think there's some things that as we continue to grow and change our mindset, we have to understand how we were created, and that's perception.
Right.
So typically what I say is there's this 3E process that we talk about: environment, education, and experience. Those things create every single person, no matter who you are.
Right.
And then those things are created, and you create those things by the things you, basically your five senses, what you see, what you taste, what you hear, you know, what you say about yourself, what you think. Those create your state of being, and your state of being then becomes your personality, right?
Right.
But personality is then divided into your personal reality. You know, that comes a little bit from that Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Yeah, really good
book drop, right?
Yeah.
But also, once you understand that, then you start to understand that there is a process of you're either going to be reactive or proactive, because then it curates your personality, and your personality, like I said, is basically the way you see the world. Everybody sees the world differently. It's perspective. And you can live in one way, in one perspective, and stay in that perspective, or you can choose to expand yourself and see the world differently. And that's what I go back to that allegory where I said I had to let go. I was living by the false illusions of life. I had to let go of some of those false illusions to see what the real world was. And then now that I see it clearly, I'm seeing it differently, and I'm understanding it differently, I'm able to maneuver in it differently, which is helping me on this journey of achieving or becoming my best self in my own right. So, yeah. Mindset.
And then even talk about environment, right? So you are who you hang out with, you know, your circle of influence, your friends, your family. A lot of people I run into, I feel like in a sense give an excuse of why they are the way they are because of their environment. Oh, you know, I can't do this because of this, or I can't do this because of that. Now remind you, like, you may not be able to do something physically because based off, you know, whatever your disability is, or, you know, something in that nature is different, not what I'm speaking of. But we run into a lot of people that are in jobs that they don't want to be in. Of course, you have to be in a job because it's like, oh, well, I need money, right? But are you working on your craft? Are you, like, what is the craft that you are working on in order to have financial freedom, in order to have the freedom that we're all longing for? Someone said to me today that we're all living for freedom. Right?
Personal freedom. We're not all here trying to work for someone the rest of our lives. And if so, that's perfectly fine, because maybe you are called to serve in that environment for whatever reason. That's fine. But it's like, you know, how do we get people to understand that basically, how do you become your authentic self when your environment is up against you? Whether that's your employees, whether that's your friends. Do you encourage people to look at their circle? Like, how do you encourage them to get out of their circle in order to become who they truly want to be, but their environment is pulling them back? Yeah, so I talk about two things. Is it proximity or is it similarity?
Right.
You know, you can be around similar people But I mean, I'm sure we've all heard, if you hang around, 10 successful people and you're the ninth one, you're most likely to be successful, right? If you hang around people that are of the same education, if you're the smartest person in the room, it's probably time for you to find another group.
Right.
But that's why I say it's proximity. For me, it's you're going to have, and I think you probably need a little bit of both, right? But I think in the essence of being around people that have expanded visions, expanded minds, helps you elevate. If you're with a group of people that are not elevating you, even though they may be your loved ones, people that you love to be around, family member, best friends, all of that different stuff, it may be time for you to explore and find new friends.
Right.
And that's not a disrespect to anybody else. Not saying that you can't maintain those friends.
Right.
But if you want to elevate and you want to grow, you have to start putting yourself around environment and spaces with people that are trying to grow in the way that you're trying to grow, because it would be very hard for you to expand if no one is thinking like you. See, it was a part of me. I was thinking about the things I was wanting to do before I left Topeka. I was trying to read more books. I was trying to look for the young professional groups.
Yes.
I was looking for those different accesses for people that can help me get to where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, no disrespect to Topeka, but we didn't have that at the time. This was back in 2015. I was looking for those spaces. So now in this journey, like I said, as you continue to find and you look for, I recommended that book to you, The Alchemist. And it's like we're all on a journey to find our treasure.
Right.
And I'm not going to spoil it because you're still reading it, but we all have a treasure that it is about basically finding your authentic self.
Yeah.
And it's not about money. It's not about, material things. It's about finding truly who you are. And when you find truly who you are, then it takes you to a whole nother level of consciousness. But that's being intentional. How are you going to move every day to get to where you want to go?
Right.
And I think that's where we really need to focus in on, is like, who are we becoming, is more so focused on who are you, your own understanding of yourself. So, yeah.
And then going into education, right? So we talk about books all the time. This man reads, oh my gosh, like the whole library, I really think at this point. But I'm not gonna lie, when I first met him, I was like, I hate reading. And he was like, oh, you should read this book, this book, this book. And I'm like, who has time to read, Everybody
has time to read.
You have time for what you want to make time for,
exactly.
Yes. But I had to understand that as I'm on this journey of becoming who I want to be, it required me to read. Like I had to. And so I think that sometimes people get to a space where they feel like, oh, I no longer need to learn. But if anything, once you find the desire that you want to do in life, that's when learning actually starts. Like you actually have to pour more into your craft. And are you studying your craft? Are you studying other people? And so I think once I realized, like, okay, I wanted to turn this podcast into a whole talk show, right? It was like I was studying the greats, In a way, I was still studying, like, newscasters, but that was different. But it was, like, really studying Elena Cardone, Tamron Hall, Grant Cardone, really, Les Brown, Miles Monroe, like people who were, in a sense, motivational speakers. And I'm not trying to say that's what I want it to be, but like really people filled of substance, right? And I think, again, going back into education, you always talk about knowledge is power. And just go into why is it so important for people to read books, not in a sense of like you have to go read every single book in the world, but I think it's a requirement for your next stage in life.
Yeah, I think, and again, it depends on who we're talking about, right? Culturally, sometimes. And I think that I was never told that, the information that you needed were in books. But then when I started reading books, and you read a book and it's a national bestseller and it's 25 million sold.
Yeah.
But then everybody around me, when I ask someone, hey, have you read this book? And it's like, no, I've never read it. So 25 million people bought this book, but I don't know one person that has read it. Like, that's a problem, right? So I think that some of this knowledge, if we talk about principles, things that we can learn about life, things that we can help create some positive habits in our lives. And we just don't have that information. There's not a pool of that. So I start diving into these different books. to really learn about these principles.
Yeah.
And these principles, I'm learning these different things, and I'm like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you talk about, just to name a few, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the basic book, right?
Yeah, the 12 Pillars.
The 12 Pillars.
It's the basic book, yep.
Motivational Manifesto. We talk about all these different things, and how big habits are in our lives. And I never really took habits into consideration. I was just a thing that I did. But when you understand the underlying, like what habits do for you, because we all are creatures of habit.
Right.
Everybody, we all have habits, whether they're good or bad. But when you understand how habits are created, then you get to dictate how you choose to create the habits for yourself. So I think the knowledge of who we are becoming is important as we grow. So I like to say this equation is funny. It goes into a little things that when I was young. I had this lady tell me this one day. She said A plus B equals C.
Yep. And
she said if you are A, your behavior is B, your outcome, the consequences is C. She said you gotta see the C before the B, which means before you make any behavior, you need to know what the outcome is before you display. That's consciousness. That's intentional. But along the lines of that, there's also a thing we talk about wisdom. That's also wisdom, right? The more and more you know. So there's also this thing that says knowledge, right? And experience. So we talk about the experience and the knowledge. Compared, them added together equals the wisdom.
Right.
But if you're lacking one of the two, if you're lacking, if you have the knowledge, but you're lacking the experience, they say typically it leads to ignorance. Or if you have the experience and you're lacking the knowledge, that still leads to ignorance. So you think about that, and I had to think about that a little bit, and I said, okay, well, if I'm fully knowledgeable of the situation, then how am I ignorant if I know about it? But if you've never experienced it, how can you really talk about it? So how many times we run into people that are really book smart, but they've never had, that's what they say when you go to college, it's hard to find a job when you get out of college because they say what? You need the experience.
Yeah. And then they tell you need like 4 to 5 years. Like, I just graduated college.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Because you don't have the wisdom of the job yet.
Yeah.
And that is the key, right? We want people to start to learn that, you can be in the streets and be very street smart.
Right.
But you can't correlate that to the knowledge of what you're doing, so it doesn't work for you, right? But when you put those two things together, you become a very powerful force. So it's the coupling of the knowledge and the experience that gets you the wisdom. And that's why we're all going to have experiences in our lives, but we need to understand what those things do to us to be able to gain the wisdom to fully be conscious on the things that we want to create in our lives.
Okay, now it's time to go deeper. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay,
go.
So a lot of people look at Michael Odupitan and they're like, oh my gosh. First of all, when I used to run into his like friends and stuff, they call him Dupe. Okay, never heard of that. I was like, who is Dupe? I'm like, who is that? And so that was a whole person we've never seen before. But to get to who you are today, you had to go through a lot of challenges. And so I would love for you to share maybe the most challenging thing that you've overcome, maybe you're still overcoming today, that you can share with someone and maybe inspire them that, again, this thing that we called life, there's never going to be a time where things just stop and they be perfect. Because I think, I'm not gonna lie, when I was little, I used to think like, when I become like my greater version of myself, everything's going to be perfect. I'm going to have the house, the husband, the kids, and it's just going to be great. But it's just like, there's always going to be something going on. And so for you, what would you say is your biggest challenge today that you've possibly overcame and maybe still going through?
The biggest challenge was the loss of my mom. I mean, that's always going to be my biggest challenge. But I think more so in the challenges of life, it's been a few. I mean, we've all had some challenges. I think as I've grown, there's been different levels of challenges, right? When I was younger, when I was younger, I struggled with, and maybe people may not have known that, but I struggled with wanting to be more than what I had. You know, we didn't have much growing up, but the one thing I always say, my mom never made it look like we didn't have much, you know. So people would have never really known that side unless you really knew me. Outside of our neighborhood, if someone saw me, we had the nicer clothes that she could afford, but it was still that we didn't have things like some of my friends had. So that was a challenge to get over that. So that motivated me day to day to like, okay, I'm gonna go do this thing and be successful.
Yeah.
After getting to college, 4 years of college, knowing that I had this skill, I'm going to the NFL, hurt my knee my senior year, that was a challenge. Didn't have an opportunity to go to the combine and maybe even put myself in position to really, you know, show what I had. So I had to eat and swallow that. And then it was like, okay, well, now what's next, life? You know, what's next, God? And what are we doing now? You know, as far as, you know, this life that we're going to live. And I feel like now that I'm in this place, sometimes, and we talk about that book, The Alchemist, sometimes life puts you on a journey you don't even realize you're on a journey. And that journey is basically you identifying what God is putting you in place for. Like these small things start happening in your life and you don't even know that they're happening, but you'll look back later and be like, oh, I see what's happening here. Like you have something in bigger in store. So for me, it was accepting that I was on a journey when I was going through all the hard things that I was going through, trying to become this person, you know?
Yeah.
And then we talk about that, you know, your path for what you want, but not realizing the peaks and valleys, the ups and downs.
Yep.
But they say, actually, man, life moves faster when you have ups and downs. You know what I mean? Because you're on this roller coaster ride. But as you're going through downs, you know, it's going to slow down. But when you hit the peak, it's going to speed up. And I think that's what happens for me is I've hit a lot of ups and downs. I've hit a lot of, you know, lows. I've hit a lot of highs. But I've strengthened my mind through all of those journeys. So that way I became stronger at each level to be able to deal with whatever comes my way. So I'm in a good space right now because I feel like losing my mom was probably the worst thing that could have ever happened to me.
That's true.
Outside of death, right? But at this point, nothing else can really get to me in that space where like I don't think I'll ever hit a low, that low, you know what I mean, until it's my time to pass on. So.
And I will say, like, I always tell everyone that Michael's the most gracious person that I've ever met. Like, you have so much grace and compassion and passion for people that sometimes I'm like, are you sure? I can go off on them. Like, let me go. And you're like, for what? It's okay, you know? And so I just admire that about him. Just like, you know, you have changed my heart in a way to where I'm just not reactive anymore. It's just kind of like, I let things pass, you know? But as you become your authentic self, you know, there's still insecurities that people deal with. And so for you walk around like, you know, you're confident. You have this alpha mentality, you know? And it's like, I'm like, does anything bother you? Do you have any insecurities?
I mean, everybody has insecurities. You know
let's
what I mean?
see what yours are.
I just don't live in them. I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. So when you go through these different levels, and I think that's what we talk about in this survival to creation, and when you live in that space where you're comfortable with who you are and living in your authentic self, we all have things that I think that we feel like we could do better. But the difference is I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't like think about them so much that they stop me from where I'm going.
Right.
You know, I know that they exist, but I'm constantly every day trying to overcome them.
Right.
Right. So if I continue to sit in a space where I'm dwelling in, I'm not good at this or I'm not great at that, you know, I don't do that. So what I do instead is I say, if I'm not good at this, I'm going to learn how to get better at it. You know, one of my, so when I was 18 years old, I don't think I've ever told you this story.
Ooh.
When I was 18 years old, I went and got my first tattoo.
Okay.
And when I went and got that tattoo, I hid it from everybody. So my sister's probably go see this. And
The one on your arm?
No, the one on my stomach.
Oh, okay.
So when I was younger, I used to listen to this song by MJG, old school rapper. And he had this opening quote that said, it said, keep your mind. Now, all the things that I was dealing with at the time, I had to learn how to keep my mind. And it says, and the quote kind of goes like, it was kind of like you have these mission statements for your life. This was my mission statement. And it says, I've been through many levels of life. I've had to take the good with the bad. Many times I've been in situations that made me want to give up, but it's not what they say though, it's what you know though. He says, listen to me, find your destiny and be destined to get to your destination, because ain't nobody gonna look out for you like you. He said, talent is normal, and then with time, your talent gets better. So understand what I say, don't let hard times stress you out for whatever. You gotta keep your mind. That was my mission statement, and that's why I'm able to recite that like that, because I listened to that so many times that I was like, that's a real thing. So those things you talk about, like, that's how I maintain who I am. I keep my mind. But there's another song on there that talks about that life is hard but fair. So people say life ain't fair. Well, life is fair because it is. You get to make it. You get to create it, right? It's gonna be hard, but you get to create the life that you want. So in that song, the chorus says, "For what I don't know, I'ma learn, and what I ain't got, I'ma earn. So when it's my turn, I'ma bring it to you hard, but it's fair, to look like it was part of the air." And that's where I'm at right now. Like, no matter what nobody say about me, no matter how anybody feels about me, no matter what I've been through in life, understanding that life is hard, I'm gonna keep my mind through the process. But when I achieve what I achieve, it is what it is, because I did it, and I created it. So that's the thing. I think that's the point of, like, being who you are, finding out who you are, like living on truly your passion, living in your authentic self, knowing that life isn't about things. It's about what we do for people, right? It's not about becoming somebody. It's becoming what? Nobody, man. Like, when you become less of things becoming about you, then I feel like, honestly, God starts to bless you in ways that you might not realize it, because you're not about self-absorbance, right? It's about what you can do for other people. And when you start doing that, life is about what we give back.
Yeah, God's definitely checking my heart on that. I remember I told him, I was like, man, I don't know about this transition, because of what I say. I was like, I'm not going to be seen anymore.
I'm going to be seen.
And that's just real.
But that's the thing about it, though. If you want to be seen, if you're seeking to be seen, you're not going to be seen. But if you let go of the pressure of trying to be seen and just do what you need to do, you're going to be seen.
Authentically.
Authentically, right? People are gonna pay attention to you for the things that you do for other people. But if you're out to do it for yourself, it ain't gonna happen the way you want it to, because you're not being a servant.
Woo! That was good.
Is it?
No, but okay, if you definitely want to see Michael get loose, you can definitely play those songs, because one time he put those songs on in the car, this man started going like crazy. I was like, I've never in my life seen you get so loose before.
It's my gospel, man. It's my gospel.
The rap songs, your gospel.
Yeah, I mean, I say that in the essence of, but see, I think it's consciousness. So I think sometimes
he does be speaking some deep
I think
stuff.
sometimes it depends on what type of rap you listen to. So when I was a kid, I think I was really blessed to have, to find rappers like that, because it was about becoming something. Although there were certain things that they talked about, but it's what you take. I had a friend, one of my homeboys, you met Orlando the other day. But Orlando used to always say, eat the meat and spit out the bones, right? So, like, why absorb everything that you take? Just take what you want to take. People are going to say good things, and not all the things that they say are going to be what's best for you. But you take what's good for you, and then you move on. And that's just kind of where I'm at. Like, so I listen to a lot of rap, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to follow everything that they say. I'm going to take what I'll choose to take that's good for my life and move on. And that's just what it is.
Wow. You just look so good.
She gonna do this on the podcast.
Sometimes you just gotta memorize a little bit. I'm just kidding. Okay, so as we come to a close, one thing I always like to give our guests is, a time to give our viewers some nuggets, just some few pointaways. I mean, we touched on a lot of things, and I hope you guys, got a little bit of something from this episode. As long as we can touch one person, that's always our goal. But like, if you could just leave the viewers with anything for this day, anytime that they hear this, what's one thing or even a couple of things that you would hope that they can take away about what it takes to become the authentic you, what it takes to become the best version of yourself, and understanding that it's always going to be a journey.
So I always say that it's understanding you. That's it. Like, life is simple. Another one of my mentors, Eugene Williams, always, every time I talk to him, he says, life is simple. Yeah. And I'm learning that every day, that life is simple when you focus on you, your own understanding. The more you understand who you are, the greater chances that you're going to get to getting to who the person that you want to be. And that doesn't matter like what surrounds you in your environment. It is raising the bar for who you want to be in your life. So that's what we say. First thing is understand who you are. Second thing I would say is to begin with the end in mind, and that process of knowing where you want to go, right? And then learning the difference between living in emotion or living consciousness. Yes. Right? There's this thinking and feeling loop of how we are created. So if you say that I'm going to go through life living off emotion and the things that happen around me, you are living from an outside in perspective. Yeah. If you're focusing on you first, you're living from an inside out perspective. And that's very different. Those are two ways to live. Right. You're either going to live reactive from an outside in, or you're going to live proactive from an inside out, which means you are creating the life that you want by living inside out. You're not allowing the outside world to dictate who you become. Yeah. Those are two different things. So consciously thinking about the person that you want to be, the direction that you want to go, and then living in that in the body, you being the controller of your body. So you being the manager, mind controls the body to get the things that you want. But the first part of that is then, one, understanding who you are. And then I'll say the second thing, just in this equation that we kind of talk about, the power of choice. Yes. You know, we don't really talk about how powerful choice is as much, but God gives us the ability to choose. And you have the ability to create the life that you want by the choices that you make every single day. Yes. Those choices will dictate your behavior. And the behaviors that you repeatedly do over and over again become who you are. They become your habits. Yes. The third thing that I would say is just understand, like I mentioned in that rap lyric, he said, with time, talent is normal, but with time, your talent will get better. Right. When you give yourself time, right, and you understand that whatever journey that you're on, it's not the microwave effect to creating what you want. Right. You have to live in a space where you have to be comfortable with being discomfort or comfortable with being uncomfortable. As you're on your journey, you have this ideal of where you want to go in life, but life doesn't happen like that. It's going to take time. And as it's taking time, you have to be okay with it not happening the exact way you want it to happen. So if you can maintain time, you increase your ability to achieve the things that you want. But because people are so impatient and the things that they want, they end up not achieving. It's supposed to happen tomorrow, right? In a couple of years. So it's the classic it's the classic example of the marshmallow test. Oh my gosh, yes. When you put like a marshmallow in front of them to see if they're gonna take it or not. Yeah, you can give a marshmallow to a child and you say, hey, don't eat this marshmallow. And if you don't eat this marshmallow, by the time I come back, I'll give you 2. Right. And if you watch that, you can look it up on YouTube. Most of the kids are like, they just eat this thing, you know what I mean? Because they don't have any patience. Yeah. But those who wait got the second marshmallow. But statistics have shown through the study of those kids that most kids, the ones that were able to wait until they got the second marshmallow, actually did better in life because they developed patience. So if you can develop patience in your life, it'll take you far in life. So that's what would be the nuggets that I would drop for any of the people that are listening today. Well, awesome. Okay, Michael. You're welcome. Put it on him today. You're welcome. How you feel? I feel good. Yeah? Yeah, life is good, man. Life is what you make it. That's exciting. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to have you here. Yeah, I'm happy to have you. Looking like chocolate. I'm just kidding. She can't help herself, y'all. She can't help herself. Look, come on. We really have fun behind closed doors, you know? Life is good. Super excited. And so would you like to tell them what's coming? So, I mean, for anybody that's listening, I mean, like you said, we've been on this journey of trying to create this space for, especially in the space in Topeka, this collaborative space that we're building into. And it's really hopefully it can be a space that takes people from that survival to creation. I think we purchased a building in 2020, roughly about a 15,000 square foot building that we were hoping that we can get into some remodel, but it took some time. And again, patience. You got to be patient, man. It doesn't happen the way you want it. And we've been trying to work on this building for a while now. 2020, here we are at 2 years. We bought it in November, so we're roughly at 2 years. But in the patience of that, the building is now, we have secured funding to get the building done. And now we're on our way to getting this building remodeled and hopefully having it open before the end of this year. And things are really good, man. And God's been blessing this journey in a major way as far as like the networks and the connections to people and that support it. And that's what it is, man. You're gonna find people along your journey, and sometimes people are there, you know, long periods of time, short periods of time, but they're all there to help you get to where you need to go. And
it's beautiful.
It's been a blessing. So I'm thankful for everybody that we've met along the way. Every single person that I've met along this journey has helped get us to where we are, and I'm thankful for every last one of them. So some big things coming with this building. Like I said, collaborative space that we're building into, a resource center, a community hub, and hopefully a co-working space that we can provide for the community.
Yeah, we're super excited about it. And again, just to be his like right hand watching it all unfold, like it is unbelievable. I mean, so unbelievable. Like on the outside looking in, you know, people may think it's easy, but it's like you don't understand. Like this man is up working late nights, keeping me up, okay? Because your girl wants her sleep, okay? But anyways, super excited to where you got me up working on my craft, and that's just the benefit of again like surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, who want you to be great. And I just love it. I love it all. And it's super exciting. And so even speaking of our friends, like our friends were able to give us the opportunity to be in this space. I mean, look at it. It's pretty dope. Okay. So I'm super excited to continue the partnership here. We want to give a shout out to Creative Pathways and Means. They provided this space today. Super excited. And I just love it. I love it. I love that, again, going back to people help you get to where you want to be, and just the partnership of that and the friendship of that. We thank you guys. It's absolutely beautiful, and I sound amazing on here. It's nice.
It's a different look, and I think these guys over here, Connor and SJ, and all over here doing their thing as far as building in the space, man. And it's been pretty amazing to watch their journey as well. And I think that like I said, the connections to people. As we talk about expanding and the help that you get along the way and the friends that you build. I mean, it's just something amazing. And you just continue to see it happen across spectrums when people are open to being open, right? To releasing anything that we may be holding on to. Like when you release, that's part of being that authentic self. When you release, like things open up, man. And we just want to continue to say that we want to, be around those who have open hearts, because the open hearts is how we're going to get to where we want to get.
Definitely.
And collaboratively working together with people.
Wow. So guys, we are coming to the end. This is the last episode, but there's a kicker. So the series is continuing, okay? So we have actually multiple series that we're kicking off. I'm super excited. I can't tell you what the next series is yet, but just know more is coming on the Behind the Spotlight podcast. Super excited. Again, we thank you guys for watching and tuning in. This is the last show of Becoming, but more is coming. Just wait. Just wait. God is working. But that's all for Behind the Spotlight podcast. This is your last episode of Becoming. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much to our friends behind the scenes. We appreciate it. You guys have a great day.